Kels, as a member of the executive council, where did the idea for the shirts come from tonight, and how important you think they were with, again, the fans behind you at the end of the game, chanting and such?
Well, it was a very powerful moment. We didn't, at least as players, we didn't know that was going to happen. So I think it was kind of like a genuine surprise. But the T-shirt, just United front, was determined this morning that we had a meeting for. And, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just we had a very
that really needed to be mentioned.
I'm trying to make a situation light, okay? But yeah, no, I think it was just all of us getting on the same page for the game. We wanted to do something that was just united and collective, and I thought that it was a very powerful moment and got the point across. And sometimes you don't have to say anything.
Kelsey Plum was the leading all-time scorer in women's college basketball until Caitlin Clark passed her up her final season at Iowa. So there's that, right? But I think we all understand that there's plenty of jealousy for Caitlin Clark around the WNBA, her spotlight, the endorsements she gets, and her fame. But Kelsey Plum, I could imagine her feeling a type of way because she really had a very similar college career with none of that spotlight, none of that fame. And we saw it, I think, last All-Star game where she picked her up in the backcourt, and they clearly, they're not chum-chum like a lot of these girls are, right? They ain't stud buds. But, Plum, as a player, I love her. I love Kelsey Plum as a player, and pound for pound, she could probably beat half the guards in the NBA. When we're talking skill, like she is that good. But at the same time, we're also talking about a woman who didn't realize Darren Waller was off his rocker, right? She's not exactly great at reading the room. And the irony in her, I think what she was trying to do there was make sure that Caitlin didn't get credit for the shirts, not realizing the backfire on the shirts, that she didn't want to be associated. It was on purpose. But at the same time, kind of showing her hand in her cattiness towards Caitlin. So it just completely backfired on Kelsey Plum, and Sabrina, being Sabrina is going to handle it with class. But for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, you see it in the thumbnail. They all wore the shirt, "Pay us what you owe us," out for their warm-ups for the W game. And before we get into the actual statement here, y'all watch Shark Tank? I love Shark Tank, especially this time of the year when there's not as many sports going on. Mark Cuban, and you can just put the reruns on over and over again. And you see someone step to the Shark Tank stage with an innovative idea, a creative idea, and all the sharks, they're intrigued, right? They say, well, we had 1.2 million sales our first year. And then they say, oh, we made $60,000 though. And all the sharks go, oh, so where is the leak in your chain? Why aren't you turning more of a profit? Is it the production? Is it the advertising? Is it A to B? Is it, where are you selling these things? And that's what happens a lot on Shark Tank, right? There's a good product, but they're not turning a profit. The margins aren't there. And I think that's the first thing that you need to bring up in this discussion with the women's pay in the W, right? Revenue versus profit. And you hear people say, oh, well, the W is generating more revenue than it ever has, but they haven't turned a profit yet. And the other number that is thrown out is the men in the NBA, they get about 50% of the revenue, where the women get 9% of the revenue. But again, there's no profit. The math ain't mathing. And so I think the question is there a leak in the chain? Who is making money, right? Is it the arenas? Certainly not the TV deals. What I imagine is happening is the owners are getting it back on taxes, right? It's a write-off. That's what I imagine is happening. And then the other aspect is if the owners in the NBA are floating this with hopes and dreams of eventually turning a profit, right? You imagine once the revenue starts growing and they start inching towards a profit, naturally they're going to want their slice of the pie first before they cut the women in on more revenue. And so it's just a problem. Here's what I would say. What they have to do right now is capitalize on their own branding. I think I saw a list of the top Instagram, who has the most followers on Instagram. Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink, I think Jill Lloyd was on there, Kelsey Plum. There's Angel Reese was amongst the top, right? But you look at Angel Reese. Angel Reese is a millionaire, not because of her WNBA salary, right? It's the endorsements in her brand that she's built off her exposure playing in the WNBA. Something you see with fighters a lot. Now, boxing is a whole different type of money, right? But a lot of these UFC guys that are not top of the card, really they're making their money from endorsements. It's not the actual paycheck from the fight, maybe a fight bonus. And I feel like that's the workaround right now for these women. As far as the shirt goes, I think you get in trouble when you use the word owe, right? People don't like that. Hey, you owe me. Hey, right? Deserve would have been much more demure, as they like to say, right? I think deserve would have been the better way, but they wanted to make a bold and strong statement. Here we are talking about it, but it backfired. And I think the other element of this is, listen, you've got a couple hundred of the most competitive women in the world, not just competing on the basketball court, but competing to survive financially. Outside of the Caitlin Clarks and the Sabrinas, the Asia Wilsons, like the sixth woman on a W team is essentially like you and I, just trying to survive in this economy and like just trying to grow, right? And so it brings out maybe the cattiness and the ugliness more than we would like, and it turns people off to the league. Personally, listen, I want them. I think they deserve more money. I don't think they're owed more money, but it also brings an element that is very entertaining as far as how hard they play and how much they fight to maintain their spots, right? Like, do you think, listen, maybe Taurasi's not a great example because she's a GOAT, but like, you think there's a reason why the vets try to play till they're 40, right? They want the paycheck, right? And so the spots are harder to come by. But they've got to capitalize on their branding and generate revenue other ways. Generate their own income, multiple sources of income for these women, right? Because they aren't getting what they deserve, but the numbers say they aren't owed it either. But I'm here for the beef. And Plum, listen, again, that smile is annoying, right? That smile is annoying. But as a player, she's one of my favorite players to watch, but I'm not surprised that backfired on her and her running her mouth. And I think overall, the All-Star weekend was a success for the W. And it was dope to see like Natasha Cloud win the skill. Like it meant so much more to them, right? Like even like the prize money for the things, it meant so much more. And so it was fun. The game itself, it seemed like that was to showcase and trying to do it like the guys do it. But reading the room, no one likes how the men play in the All-Star game either. So I don't know about that. How do you clean that up? Maybe a bigger purse for that game would make it more physical and intense. Second half of the W season, Valkyries. We're running out of gas a little bit here. I don't think I had a YouTube video of the last, a matinee against the Storm in Seattle. And it was another ugly, I think there were 44 fouls in 40 minutes. I've already went on my my rant about the refereeing. But, this is a team right now that desperately needed the All-Star break. And I think that's the question coming out of the All-Star break for the Valkyries. Is this effort and pace sustainable? That's the calling card that Nakase has built here. We're going to play harder than you. We're more physical, we're tougher, and we're going to play harder, right? Can you do that through the entirety of the season? Because the last week or so, Kayla and Tip look worn down, right? Kayla carrying more of a load for a team than she ever has offensively, and congratulations on her first All-Star appearance, right? But she looked like her legs were gone in these last final games, and Tiffany Hayes, as important as she is as a vet, she is the vet. She is an OG, right? What is it, like her 12th, 13th season, something like that? But I think that on paper, The Valkyries have the depth for this to be sustainable so long as the coaching staff manages the rotation. And I think that they have to take a little bit of the scoring load and responsibility off Thornton and Tiffany Hayes. Now, she missed so many games with the nose thing, so maybe, she has to pace herself. She is an older player. But I'm looking for Carla Late, and I'm looking for the Rupert, the French big who should be here this week, Tuesday. If we play Tuesday, I'm excited. I think, is she going to debut in this game? But the two French girls, Late and Rupert, I think to shoulder some more of the offensive load so Kayla Tip Hayes can be fresh for a playoff stretch and a playoff run down the stretch. Late's got it. She's got to start shooting the three ball. Me, I'm a shot doctor. I can't figure out why she's missing so bad other than maybe like adrenaline and being sped up. I don't see anything fundamentally flawed with the shot, but I'm excited to see Rupert. Are they going to continue to really nurture Salon in her development? She's been starting. We've been losing. I know she hit some big shots at the end of that Mercury game. And, when it looks good, it looks good. But there's a lot of holes in her game overall. And you imagine with Rupert stepping in, does that lessen her role? Because, again, on paper, we have the depth. You look at Leticia. You look at Mo Billings. You look at Chechi, right? Even Chang. They can go 9-10 deep. Can you keep your synergy and still be in sync offensively, I think is the question. I think defensively, they're all on the same page. But offensively, if you're going to go that deep and you're going to be interchangeable like that, can you remain in sync? And hopefully Rupert helps that, is just a safety valve with her shooting and spacing. And Carla can get going from behind the arc. I'll be back with that coverage. Again, you can get all those breakdowns on the Patreon as well as, the broad summary here on YouTube. But yeah, when you say, whenever you tell someone you owe me, right? That's a triggering word. And I thought they could have just put deserved. But then again, I think they were going for the aggressive, powerful impact of, Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.